Hey everyone, it's Abir. And let's be real for a second, emergencies happen. Your car breaks down, you have unexpected medical bills, or maybe you lose your job. These situations are stressful enough without having to worry about how you're going to pay for them. That's why having an emergency fund is so crucial. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Easier said than done, right? Especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck or struggling with debt. But trust me, building an emergency fund is possible, no matter your financial situation. In this video, I'm going to break down a step-by-step guide to help you build a solid emergency fund from scratch. We'll cover everything from setting realistic goals to finding extra cash and making saving a habit. First things first, you need to determine how much you should actually be saving. Financial experts generally recommend aiming for 3 to 6 months worth of essential expenses. Now, I know that might seem like a huge amount, especially when you're starting from zero. But don't let that discourage you. The key here is to start small. Instead of focusing on that big, daunting figure, break it down into smaller, more manageable goals. Begin with something like $500 or even $1,000. Having a smaller, more attainable goal will give you that initial sense of accomplishment and motivate you to keep going. Think of it like this. Would you rather be intimidated by a marathon or energized by completing a 5K? Both get you closer to your fitness goals. But that feeling of accomplishment early on can make all the difference. Once you've hit that first milestone, you can gradually increase your savings target. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. To make it even more manageable, break down your overall goal into monthly or even weekly savings targets. For example, if you aim to save $1,000 in 3 months, that's about $83 per week. By setting these smaller milestones, you're creating a clear roadmap for yourself and making the process less overwhelming. Plus, seeing those small wins along the way can be incredibly motivating. Now that you have a clear savings goal in mind, it's time to take a close look at your budget. And if you don't have a budget yet, don't worry, we'll get through this together. The goal here is to identify areas where you can potentially free up some extra cash to put towards your emergency fund. Start by tracking your expenses for a month. You can use a budgeting app, a spreadsheet, or even just a notebook. The important thing is to be thorough and honest with yourself about where your money is going. Once you have a good understanding of your spending habits, you can start to categorize your expenses. Separate your essential expenses, like rent or mortgage payments, utilities, and groceries, from your non-essential expenses. Non-essential expenses are things like dining out, entertainment subscriptions, or that daily latte you pick up on the way to work. Now, I'm not saying you have to cut out all the fun stuff completely, but even small adjustments in these areas can make a big difference over time. For example, could you cook at home a couple more nights a week instead of ordering takeout? Could you try a less expensive streaming service? Or maybe even cut back on your cable package? These small changes might seem insignificant in isolation, but they can add up to significant savings over time, giving your emergency fund a nice boost. Now that you've identified some potential areas to trim the fat in your budget, it's time to put that knowledge into action. Remember those non-essential expenses we talked about? This is where they come into play. I'm not suggesting you become a hermit and swear off all joys in life, but temporarily reducing your discretionary spending can significantly accelerate your savings progress. Think of it as a financial sprint towards your emergency fund goal. Once you've built a comfortable cushion, you can always reevaluate and reintroduce some of those expenses back into your budget. Consider this. If you typically spend $100 per week on dining out and entertainment, cutting that back by even half would free up an extra $200 per month. That's $2,400 per year that could be going straight into your emergency fund. And let's be honest, do you really need that daily latte when you can make a perfectly good cup of coffee at home for a fraction of the cost? Remember, this is about making conscious choices with your money and prioritizing your financial security. By making temporary sacrifices in these non-essential areas, you're setting yourself up for long-term financial peace of mind. All right, so we've talked about cutting back on expenses, but what about the other side of the equation, making more money? Boosting your income can significantly accelerate your emergency fund savings. And no, you don't necessarily need to pick up a second job or ask for a raise, although those are definitely options. The gig economy has opened up a world of opportunities to earn extra cash on your own terms. Whether it's driving for a ride-sharing service, delivering food, freelancing your skills, or even selling handmade goods online, there are countless ways to supplement your income. Think about your skills and interests. What are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? Chances are, there's a side hustle out there that aligns with your passions and can bring in some extra cash. Another great way to boost your savings is to sell items you no longer need or use. We all have clutter in our homes, whether it's clothes that no longer fit, electronics we've upgraded from, or furniture gathering dust in the attic. One person's trash is another person's treasure, right? Platforms like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and OfferUp make it easier than ever to sell your unwanted items and turn them into cash for your emergency fund. Now that you're actively working on building your emergency fund, it's crucial to keep those savings separate from your regular spending money. This is where a dedicated savings account comes in. Ideally, you want to find a high-yield savings account that offers a competitive interest rate. This will help your money grow a little faster over time. More importantly, keeping your emergency fund in a separate account prevents accidental spending. It removes the temptation to dip into it for non-emergency purchases. Think of it like this. Your emergency fund is for, well, emergencies. It's not for that new pair of shoes or a weekend getaway. When you have a dedicated account, you're less likely to spend those funds on impulse. It creates a psychological barrier that helps you stay disciplined and focused on your financial goals. Make sure the account you choose is easily accessible in case of an emergency, but not so easy to access that you're tempted to use it for everyday purchases. You want to strike a balance between accessibility and security. Remember, this money is there to provide a safety net, not to fund your latest shopping spree. Building an emergency fund takes time and effort, so it's important to acknowledge and celebrate your progress along the way. Don't underestimate the power of small victories. Each milestone, whether it's reaching your first $100, $500, or $1,000, is a reason to celebrate. Tracking your progress can be incredibly motivating. It allows you to see how far you've come and reinforces the positive financial habits you're developing. You can use a budgeting app, a spreadsheet, or even a simple piece of paper to track your savings. Visualizing your progress can be incredibly powerful. Consider creating a visual representation of your savings goal, like a thermometer that you fill in as you get closer to your target. And don't forget to reward yourself for reaching those milestones. Now, I'm not suggesting you go on a shopping spree every time you hit a savings goal, but a small treat or experience can go a long way in keeping you motivated. Remember, building an emergency fund is a journey, not a destination. So enjoy the ride and celebrate those small wins along the way. Congratulations! You've taken the necessary steps to build a solid emergency fund. But the work doesn't stop there. Building an emergency fund is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time task that you can check off your list and forget about. Life is unpredictable, and your income and expenses can fluctuate over time. That's why it's crucial to reassess your emergency fund needs periodically. Aim to review your budget and savings goals every few months, or whenever you experience a significant life change, like a job change, a move, or a new addition to the family. If you find that your expenses have increased, adjust your savings goals accordingly. And if you receive a raise or a bonus, consider putting a portion of that extra income towards your emergency fund. Remember, the goal is to maintain a healthy financial cushion that can provide peace of mind in unexpected situations. And if you do need to dip into your emergency fund, don't beat yourself up about it. That's what it's there for. Just make it a priority to replenish those funds as soon as possible. Building an emergency fund is a journey. And like any journey, it requires consistency, adaptability, and a little bit of patience. But trust me, the peace of mind it provides is well worth the effort. Remember, building an emergency fund is a marathon, not a sprint. Starting is the hardest part, but even small, consistent steps can make a big difference over time. Don't get discouraged if you can't save a large amount right away. Every dollar you put aside is a step in the right direction. Over time, those small contributions will add up to a significant financial safety net. So start today, even if it's just with a few dollars. Your future self will thank you. You've got this.